Her grandma, who hadn't spoken a single word in over a year, suddenly opens her mouth at a bunk. Enjoy today's story.
The first thing I remember my mother ever said about Grandma Edith was that she smelled like old newspapers and disappointment. I was 7. We were leaving her apartment after one of those obligatory Sunday visits, and I remember looking back at the building wondering what disappointment smelled like and why my grandmother had so much of it. My mother caught me looking. "Don't feel too sorry for her," she said, pulling me toward the car. "She made her own bed." I never found out what bed Grandma Edith had made. My mother wasn't the explaining type. She was the type who expected you to absorb knowledge through proximity, like how I was supposed to know that we didn't talk about Uncle Vernon's first marriage, or that my father's promotion being passed over was actually a blessing in disguise, or that my brother Bradley was destined for great things while I was destined for. Well, she never quite finished that sentence. Bradley got the bedroom with the window seat. I got the one next to the water heater that clanked every 40 minutes. Bradley got piano lessons. I got told I didn't have the fingers for it. When Bradley got into state on a partial scholarship, my parents threw him a party. When I got a full ride to community college for nursing, my mother said, "Well, that's practical," like practical was a disease she hoped I'd recover from. I didn't finish nursing school. I know that's the part that sounds bad when I tell people. They hear dropped out, and they fill in the rest. Lazy, uncommitted, couldn't hack it. What they don't hear is that I dropped out because my father had his first heart surgery and someone needed to cover the deductible. And Bradley had just gotten engaged to Cynthia, whose parents were paying for a destination wedding in Cabo. And my mother looked at me across the dinner table and said, "Macy, you understand, don't you? Bradley's at a critical point in his career." I understood. I'd always understood. So I got a job waitressing at a steakhouse off the interstate, and then a second job doing data entry for a chiropractor who paid in cash. And I moved into a studio apartment in a building where the elevator smelled like cigarettes and ambition. And for 4 years, I basically didn't exist to my family except as a Christmas card signature and an extra place setting at Thanksgiving when someone else had canceled. The thing about Grandma Edith's house is that I didn't know it was gone until it was. She'd lived in that brownstone for 40 years, 3 bedrooms, a garden out back where she grew tomatoes, a front porch where she used to sit and watch the neighborhood kids ride bikes. My grandfather bought it before I was born, paid it off before he died. It was the one solid thing Grandma had. I found out she'd sold it the same way I found out most family news, by accident. I was 23, home for Thanksgiving because my mother had guilted me into coming, and I overheard Vernon talking to my father in the kitchen. They didn't know I was in the hallway. "She signed everything over last month," Vernon was saying. "Took some convincing, but she understood it was the right thing to do." "And you're sure the investment is solid?" My father sounded skeptical, which was unusual for him around Vernon. "Real estate development in Arizona. Can't miss. I've got partners lined up, permits in process. 2 years, maybe 3, and we'll triple her money. Then she can buy an even nicer place, somewhere warmer." "And if it doesn't work out?" "It'll work out." Vernon's voice had that confidence that always made me uneasy, too smooth. "Trust me, Richard. Have I ever steered this family wrong?" I didn't hear my father's answer because my mother came around the corner and caught me standing there. "Macy, why are you lurking?" "I wasn't." "Help me with the table settings, honestly." I helped with the table settings. I didn't ask about the house. I'd learned by then that asking questions in my family just got you looked at like you'd broken something. 6 months later, I heard Vernon had lost everything. Not just Grandma's money, his partner's money, investors' money, all of it. Something about the permits falling through, the market shifting, legal fees that ate up what remained. The details were vague because no one talked about it directly. They just stopped mentioning Vernon's projects at family dinners. And Grandma moved into a rental apartment across town, 1 bedroom, no garden. Nobody talked about that either. I visited her once, about a year before her stroke. I didn't tell my parents I was going. I just showed up on a Saturday afternoon with a box of pastries from the bakery she used to like. She looked smaller than I remembered, thinner. The apartment was clean but bare, none of the photographs from the old house, none of the furniture I remembered. Just a couch, a TV, a small table by the window. Macy, she seemed surprised to see me. Your mother didn't mention. She doesn't know I'm here. Something flickered across her face. Ah. We sat at the small table and ate pastries and talked about nothing. The weather, my job, a show she'd been watching. She didn't mention the house. She didn't mention Vernon. Neither did I. But when I was leaving, she grabbed my hand at the door. Her fingers were thin and cold. You're a good girl, Macy, she said. You always were. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded and left. That was the last time I saw her before the stroke. I was 25 when it happened. I wasn't there. None of us were. She was found by the woman who delivered her meals on wheels, Mrs. Okonkwo, who I only know about because she was the one who called the hospital, who was listed as the emergency contact, because apparently my grandmother had stopped listing family members years ago. By the time my mother called me, it was 3 days later. The situation is complicated, she said, in that tone she used when something was very simple and she just didn't want to deal with it. Grandma Edith had survived, but there was damage. The doctors talked about language difficulties, possible long-term effects on communication. They couldn't say for certain how much she'd recover. She was responding to some things, gestures, facial expressions, touch, but she hadn't spoken since they found her. The important thing, my mother said on the phone, is figuring out the practical matters. Long-term care isn't cheap. I drove to the hospital the next day. My parents were in the hallway outside her room, talking with Vernon and Bradley. Cynthia was there too, standing slightly behind Bradley like she always did, looking at her phone. She can't live alone, my father was saying as I walked up. That's obvious. Then we find her a facility, my mother said. A nice one. With what money? Vernon's voice was sharp. She's got nothing, Linda. Social Security and a pension that barely covers her medications. There's nothing to pay for anything nice. I stood at the edge of the group, still holding my coat because no one had offered to take it. So someone takes her in, I said, temporarily, until we figure out something else. Everyone looked at me like they'd forgotten I was there. My mother's face did something complicated, annoyance and relief fighting for space. Macy, she said, that's very generous, but you work full-time, and you live in that little. Studio, I said. I live in a studio, and I work, yeah, but I could adjust my schedule. Get a night shift instead, maybe. The silence that followed wasn't thoughtful. It was calculating. Vernon recovered first. That could work, just until the Medicaid paperwork goes through. These things take time, but once she's in the system. I haven't agreed to anything permanent, I said. Of course not. Vernon's smile didn't reach his eyes. Just temporary. The family appreciates it, Macy, really. My mother was nodding like everything had been decided. Maybe it had. I went into Grandma's room while they kept talking. She was lying in the hospital bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. Monitors beeped softly around her. Hey, Grandma. I pulled a chair close to the bed, sat down. It's Macy. She turned her head slowly, looked at me. Her eyes were clear, more present than I'd expected, but she didn't say anything. I'm going to take care of you, I said, for a while, until we figure things out. She kept looking at me, then she reached out and took my hand. Her grip was weak, but it was there. 3 weeks later, Vernon pulled up to my building in a rental car with my grandmother in the passenger seat and 2 suitcases in the trunk. She's got everything she needs in those, he said, not getting out of the car. Medical paperwork's in the side pocket. Her prescriptions are listed. Pharmacy should have everything on file. I stood on the curb, still in my work uniform, smelling like steak and disbelief. Wait, you're just... We talked about this, Macy. He was already helping her out of the car, moving quickly like he wanted to be somewhere else. The family agreed. Temporary arrangement. I thought there'd be more. Preparation. a transition period. She likes tea in the morning, 2 sugars, and she doesn't like the TV on too loud. Vernon set the suitcases on the sidewalk. He didn't look at Grandma, didn't say goodbye to her. You need anything else, call your mother. Vernon. I've got a flight. He was already walking back to the driver's side. You're doing a good thing here, Macy. The family appreciates it. And then he drove away, and I was standing on the sidewalk with a 72-year-old woman who hadn't spoken a word since her stroke, 2 suitcases, and no idea what to do next. Grandma Edith looked at me. Then she looked at the building. Then she looked back at me, and something happened with her face that might have been a smile. I picked up the suitcases. Let me show you the elevator. It smells terrible, but it works. The first month was survival. I don't know how else to describe it. I moved my bed against the wall and bought an inflatable mattress for Grandma, which I put near the window because she seemed to like watching the street below. I rearranged my work schedule, mornings at the chiropractor, nights at the steakhouse, and I learned how to set up medication reminders on my phone, how to help her to the bathroom without either of us falling, how to recognize the difference between frustrated silence and content silence. She didn't speak, not once. The doctors had said her speech might be affected, might take time to recover, might never fully come back. My family heard might never and stopped paying attention. But I watched her, and the thing was, she wasn't confused. She followed conversations on TV. She reacted to things I said, to jokes, to news. When I told her the steakhouse manager was being a jerk, she rolled her eyes in a way that was so perfectly dismissive I almost laughed. She just didn't talk. We developed our own language instead. She'd tap her fingers on surfaces when she wanted my attention. 3 taps meant bathroom, 2 meant water, 1 long press meant she was tired. It wasn't complicated, but it was ours. My mother called twice that first month, both times to ask about logistical things. Did I need copies of medical records? Had I contacted social services about the Medicaid application? Never to ask how we were, never to offer help. She's settling in, I said the second time. We're figuring it out. Good. My mother's voice was distracted. Vernon's been asking about some paperwork, something from years ago, your grandfather's estate. He thinks Mother might have documents we need. What kind of documents? I don't know the details. Just, if you find anything in her things, let us know. I didn't find anything. I wasn't looking. The money started in the 3rd month. I was checking my bank account on my phone during a slow Tuesday at the chiropractor when I saw it. An $800 deposit I didn't recognize. The description just said transfer and a string of numbers. I called my bank. After 20 minutes on hold, I got a customer service representative who told me the transfer had come from an account with a different bank and that I'd need to contact them for details. I spent an hour that night trying to trace the routing number and got nowhere. Eventually, I gave up and figured it was a mistake. Some accountant somewhere had fat-fingered a number, and eventually they'd notice and the money would vanish back to wherever it came from. It didn't vanish. The next month, 800 more, same description, same untraceable routing number. And the month after that, I told myself to stop spending it. I put it in a separate savings account, just in case someone came looking. But when Grandma's medication costs went up, and the steakhouse cut my hours because the new manager didn't like me, I dipped into it. Just a little, just to cover the gap. The money kept coming. I kept using it. I was 6 months in when I started dating Marcus. We met standing in line at the pharmacy waiting for prescriptions. He was there for his mother's cholesterol medication. I was there for the 3rd time that week because the insurance kept rejecting something. They always do this, I said, to no one in particular, staring at the ceiling. The rejection thing? He had a voice like gravel smoothed by water. My mom's been fighting them for 3 months on her blood thinners. I've been fighting them for 6 months on blood pressure pills. They keep saying the dosage isn't standard protocol. What does that even mean? It means someone in an office building somewhere decided my grandmother doesn't deserve the medication that actually works for her. He was quiet for a second, and I thought I'd made things awkward. But then he said, "That's messed up." "Yeah, I'm Marcus." "Macy." "You want to get coffee after this, Macy? You look like you could use some coffee." I almost said no. I was tired, and I had to get home to Grandma, and I didn't have time for whatever this was. But something in his face, not pity exactly, but recognition, made me say yes. We got coffee. Then we got dinner a week later. Then he started showing up at the steakhouse near the end of my shifts, nursing a beer at the bar until I clocked out. He never pushed for anything. He never asked why I couldn't stay out late, why I always had to get home. When I finally explained about Grandma, about the whole situation, he just nodded. "She sounds tough," he said, "surviving a stroke like that." "She is. You too." I didn't know what to say to that, so I kissed him instead. Marcus started coming over. He learned the tap codes. He started bringing groceries without being asked, just showing up with milk and bread and the specific brand of tea Grandma liked, even though I'd never told him the brand. He must have checked the cabinet. One night, about 8 months in, I was watching him wash dishes in my tiny kitchen while Grandma dozed on the mattress by the window. He'd cooked dinner, pasta with vegetables, nothing fancy, but better than anything I had energy to make. "You're good with her," I said. He shrugged, hands still in the soapy water. "She's good with me. Yesterday she patted my face when I came in, 3 times. I think that means she approves." "It means she wants water." He turned, eyes wide with mock horror, and I laughed for the first time in longer than I could remember. That night after he left, Grandma caught my eye. She lifted her hand and pressed it to her chest, not a tap code we'd established, something else, something older. She looked peaceful when she closed her eyes. The money question started gnawing at me around month 10. $800 a month, steady, never late, never less, no explanation, no trace. I'd eliminated the obvious possibilities. It wasn't the bank correcting some old error. I'd verified that multiple times. It wasn't a government payment. I'd gotten a social worker to check every program Grandma could possibly qualify for, and none of them matched. The only answer that made sense was Marcus. He was the kind of guy who would do something like that without telling anyone. Proud, quiet about money, and he'd been working extra shifts at the garage, I'd noticed. Coming home later, grease-stained and tired, brushing off my questions. "Just busy season," he'd say. "Lot of people getting their cars fixed before winter." But winter had passed. He was still working overtime. One Saturday, I couldn't take it anymore. "Marcus." We were in my apartment. Grandma was napping. He was on the couch, reading something on his phone. "Yeah. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." The smile faded. He put the phone down. "Okay." "The money, the 800 that shows up every month." I watched his face carefully. "Is that you?" His expression went through confusion, then alarm, then hurt. "What?" "I know you've been working extra, and you're the only person who knows how tight things have been, so I need to know. Are you selling stuff, taking on debt?" "Macy," he held up both hands. "Stop, I'm not sending you money." "Marcus." "I swear I would tell you." He leaned forward. "You're getting mystery deposits. 800, every month, since the 3rd month she's been here. And you don't know where it's coming from." "I've tried everything. The bank can't tell me. The routing number leads nowhere." "Then who?" he said. "I have no idea." He looked toward the window, where Grandma was sleeping. "Whoever it is, they want to help, and they don't want credit for it." "That doesn't narrow it down." "Sure it does." He turned back to me. "How many people in your life actually help without wanting something back?" My family resurfaced around month 11. It started with a text from my mother. "Call me when you have a moment. Family matter." I didn't call. I'd learned that family matter usually meant, "We need something from you." So I waited, and 3 days later, my phone rang while I was in the middle of helping Grandma with her physical therapy exercises. "Macy, I've been trying to reach you." "I've been busy, Mom. I work 2 jobs and I'm caring for an elderly woman around the clock. Yes, well, a pause. That's actually what I wanted to talk about. I waited. The family's been discussing options, long-term options, for Mother. What kind of options? Vernon has been looking into facilities. Nice ones, private pay. There's one in Phoenix that has an excellent reputation. Phoenix? It's only 3 hours from Vernon. He could visit regularly. Vernon hasn't visited once in 11 months. Macy, that's not, my mother sighed. There's a financial matter. Vernon needs to discuss something with Mother directly, but given her condition, communication is difficult. Discuss what? I don't have all the details. It's something about an old account. Your grandfather set something up years ago, and there's paperwork that requires her authorization. I looked at Grandma. She was sitting in the chair by the window, doing her hand exercises. Her eyes were closed, but I could tell she was listening. If Vernon needs something, he can come here and ask her himself. That's not, my mother's voice was sharp. Fine, I'll tell him. I hung up before she could say anything else. Vernon showed up 2 weeks later. No warning, no call, just a knock on my door at 7 in the evening, right when I was about to leave for my shift. I opened it expecting Marcus and found my uncle filling the doorway. He looked older than I remembered, thinner in the face, with a nervous energy I didn't recognize. The Vernon I knew was all confidence and bluster. This version was sweating through his collar. Macy, he didn't wait for an invitation, just stepped past me into the apartment. His eyes swept the room, the small kitchen, the mattress by the window, Grandma sitting in her chair. I see you've made do with the space. Vernon, I'm about to leave for work. This won't take long. He was already moving toward Grandma, pulling something from his briefcase. A folder, thick with papers. Mother, I need you to help me with something. Grandma looked at him. She didn't move. There's an account, Vernon said, speaking too loud. Father set it up years ago. It's come to our attention that it requires your signature to access. Just a signature, that's all we need. He spread papers across her lap, pushed a pen into her hand. Vernon, what is this? I said. Family business, Macy. Nothing you need to concern yourself with. She's in my care. Everything concerning her concerns me. He finally looked at me, really looked, and something shifted in his face, the fake pleasantness sliding away, revealing something harder underneath. The account contains family funds, money that was meant for all of us. Mother has been uncooperative about releasing it in the past, but given her current condition, she can't exactly object anymore, can she? Are you serious right now? This is happening with or without your approval. He turned back to Grandma, trying to close her fingers around the pen. It's simple, Mother, just sign. Don't touch her. I stepped between them, grabbed the papers off her lap. Vernon's face went red. Macy. She can't consent. You're trying to get authorization from a woman who hasn't spoken in almost a year without any legal oversight. That's fraud. She's my mother. She's my grandmother, and she's under my care, and you're not getting anything from her. You have no idea what you're talking about. His voice was rising. That money is sitting there untouched because she was too stubborn to set up proper access before, and now we need it. The family needs it. For what? To cover another one of your investments. Vernon's jaw tightened. For Bradley. He's in trouble, Macy, real trouble. He made some investments that didn't pan out, and there are people who want their money back, and if we don't come up with something fast. So Bradley gambled with money he didn't have, and now you want to raid whatever Grandma has left, after you already took her house. That was different. That was a legitimate opportunity. You lost everything she had, Vernon. Her house, her savings, everything. And now you're back for more. Marcus's voice came from behind me. Everything okay in here? I turned. He was standing in the doorway, and his eyes were moving between me and Vernon. Vernon straightened his jacket. This is a family matter. She asked you to leave. Marcus stepped inside, not aggressive but solid. So leave. Vernon looked at Marcus, then at me. You don't understand what's at stake. Bradley could go to prison, your brother, your family. Then he should have thought about that before he committed fraud. This isn't over. Vernon grabbed his briefcase, shoving the papers back inside. That money belongs to the family. You can't keep it locked away forever. Watch me. He pushed past Marcus and into the hallway, stopped at the door, looked back at us, at me, at Marcus, at Grandma sitting silent in her chair. You'll regret this, he said, both of you. Then he was gone. Marcus closed the door, locked it. You okay? He asked. I was shaking. I didn't realize until I tried to pick up my bag for work and couldn't get my fingers to close around the strap. Yeah, I said, I'm fine. I wasn't fine, but I had a shift to get to. Bradley came to the restaurant 3 days later. I didn't see him at first. I was carrying a tray of drinks to a table near the back, focused on not spilling anything, when I heard my name. Macy. He was sitting alone in a booth by the window. Nice shirt, no tie. He looked tired, actually tired, not the kind of tired people fake to get sympathy. There were circles under his eyes, and he'd lost weight since the last time I'd seen him. Bradley, I kept my voice neutral. I'm working. I know, I won't keep you. He gestured at the seat across from him. Just give me 5 minutes, please. The restaurant was busy. My manager was watching from the bar. I couldn't make a scene without consequences. I slid into the booth. 5 minutes. Bradley didn't speak right away. He was looking at me like he was trying to figure something out, how to start, maybe, or what approach would work best. You look tired, he said finally. I work 2 jobs and take care of an elderly woman. What's your excuse? He almost smiled, almost. Fair enough. Is this about Vernon? Because if you're here to pressure me. I'm not, he held up his hands. I swear, I actually came to apologize. I waited. What Vernon did, showing up like that, trying to get Grandma to sign things, that was wrong. I told him that. I told him before he went that it was a bad idea, that he was going to make things worse. Bradley shook his head. He doesn't listen. He never has. And you're here to tell me you're different. I'm here to tell you I'm sorry for all of it. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. You got stuck with Grandma because nobody else stepped up. That wasn't fair. I should have helped. I should have visited. I should have done a lot of things. Okay. I mean it, Macy. I said okay. He sat back. Something flickered across his face, frustration, maybe, at not getting the reaction he wanted. But he smoothed it over quickly. Look, he said, I'm not going to pretend things are good with me right now. They're not. I made some bad decisions, trusted the wrong people, and now I'm in a situation where, he stopped, took a breath. It doesn't matter, that's not your problem. No, it's not. I just wanted you to know that I'm not here to take anything from you, or from Grandma. He met my eyes. I'm just trying to fix things, make things right. If there's a way to do that, a way that works for everyone, I want to find it. I watched him. He was good at this. The earnest eye contact, the careful pauses, the way he made everything sound reasonable. He'd always been good at it. It was part of why our parents loved him so much. Bradley never demanded things. He just made you feel like giving them to him was your idea. What do you want, Bradley? I want to help. Help with what? With Grandma, with everything. He spread his hands. You're exhausted. You're working yourself to death. And I know I haven't been there, but I'm trying to change that, if you'd let me. How exactly would you help? I've been looking into care options. Real ones, not whatever Vernon was pushing. There are programs, grants, things that could take some of the pressure off you. He paused. And if there is money somewhere from Grandpa's estate, wherever, it should go to Grandma's care, not to bail out Vernon's mistakes or mine. To her. It sounded good. It sounded almost reasonable. You don't know anything about grants or programs, I said. I've been researching. Since when? Since I realized how badly I'd let things slide. He looked down at the table. I'm not proud of who I've been, Macy. I'm trying to be better. My manager was looking at me again. 2 of my tables were waiting for refills. "I have to get back to work," I said. "Sure, of course." Bradley reached into his pocket, pulled out a business card, slid it across the table. "That's my cell. If you want to talk, no pressure." I didn't pick up the card. "Bradley." "Yeah." "If there was money, if Grandpa left something and Grandma had access to it, what would you want her to do with it?" He didn't answer right away, and in that pause something shifted in his face, just for a second. The mask slipped, and underneath there was something cold, calculating. Then it was gone. "I'd want her to be comfortable," he said. "That's all, whatever that looks like." I stood up. "I have to go." "Macy. Thanks for stopping by." I walked away before he could say anything else. When I glanced back from the kitchen, he was still sitting in the booth, staring at the business card I'd left on the table. He left a $20 tip on a coffee he never ordered. The busboy found it when he cleared the table. That night, after my shift, I sat in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes before driving home. Bradley's visit kept replaying in my head. The apology, the concern, the careful way he'd said everything, like he was reading from a script he'd rehearsed. And that moment when his face had changed, when I'd asked about the money. He hadn't been lying, exactly, but he hadn't been telling the truth either. He'd been performing something, a version of Bradley that was humble and apologetic and only wanted to help. I thought about calling Marcus, but I didn't know how to explain what I'd seen. It wasn't anything he'd said. It was the thing underneath it. The way he'd looked at me when he thought I might have something he wanted. Like I was a problem to be solved. The legal letters started arriving the next week. My mother sent them. Or rather, a lawyer my mother hired sent them, requesting documentation about Grandma's care, questioning my fitness as a caregiver, suggesting that a more appropriate living situation might be necessary for someone of her complex medical needs. I showed the letters to Marcus, who showed them to his cousin Nadia, who worked as a paralegal. "They're fishing," Nadia said, flipping through the pages. "This isn't a real case. There's no accusation of abuse, no evidence of neglect. They're trying to scare you into compliance." So I can ignore it. "You can respond professionally. Document everything, her medication schedule, her doctor's visits, her physical therapy. Show that you're competent." Nadia handed the papers back. "But be careful. They're clearly building toward something." "What?" "Control. If they can establish that she needs a different kind of guardian, someone who'd be more cooperative, they can petition the court." I thought about Vernon's sweating face, Bradley's careful performance at the restaurant, the way they'd both talked about the money like it was already theirs, like Grandma was just an obstacle to get around. "They can't just take her." "No, but they can make your life very difficult while they try." I spent the next month preparing. Every doctor's visit was documented, every medication refill photographed. I kept a log of Grandma's daily routine, when she woke up, what she ate, her energy levels, her mood. I got statements from her physical therapist and her social worker, both of whom said she was thriving under my care. Marcus helped where he could. He fixed the leaky faucet that had been driving me crazy, installed a handrail in the bathroom, made the apartment look less like a survival situation and more like a home. Grandma watched him work with something that might have been amusement. One evening, while Marcus was measuring the window for new curtains, Grandma reached out and tugged the back of his shirt. He turned, surprised. "Yeah." She pointed at me, then at him. Then she pressed her hand to her chest again, that gesture I still didn't understand, and nodded firmly. Marcus looked at me. I shrugged. "I think she's saying she approves," I said. "Of what? The curtains?" "Of you." He went red in a way I'd never seen before. "Oh." Grandma made a sound, not quite a laugh, but close. A small huff of air that sounded intentional. We both stared. She closed her eyes and went back to her quiet breathing. The second letter came 2 weeks later. This one was different, not from a lawyer, but from Bradley directly. Handwritten, which surprised me. He'd mailed it to the apartment. I read it standing in the hallway, my back against the wall. It was 2 pages. The first page was more of the same, apologies, explanations, assurances that he wanted to help. But the second page was different. He wrote about his situation, the people he owed money to, the timeline he was working with. He didn't ask for anything directly, but the implication was clear. If he didn't come up with a significant amount of money soon, bad things would happen. The last paragraph said, "I know I don't deserve your help. I know I haven't earned it. But you're the only person in this family who ever did the right thing just because it was right. If there's any way at all, that you could talk to Grandma, help her understand what's at stake, I would be grateful. Not for me, for all of us." I crumpled the letter and threw it in the trash. Vernon came back 3 days after that. Not to my apartment. He'd learned that lesson. He arranged to meet at a branch of Grandma's bank downtown, claiming he needed to verify account information. My mother had passed along the request like she was just the messenger. He says there's paperwork the bank needs to process, something about updating the account after, her condition. I didn't believe it, but I also couldn't ignore it. If there was legitimate bank business, ignoring it could cause problems. So I took Grandma, and Marcus came along because I wasn't going anywhere near Vernon alone. The bank was one of those old downtown buildings with marble floors and too much brass. Vernon was waiting in a small conference room with a bank manager and another man in a suit who didn't introduce himself. "Macy, Mother," Vernon stood, all fake warmth. "Thank you for coming." "What's this about, Vernon?" The bank manager, a woman named Patricia, according to her nameplate, cleared her throat. "We need to verify account holder identity for a transfer request. Standard procedure when there's been a change in circumstances." "What transfer request?" Vernon jumped in. "I filed paperwork to become a signatory on the account. Given Mother's condition, the family agreed someone should have access in case of emergency." The family agreed. I didn't agree to anything. "You're not a direct beneficiary, Macy. This is between me and Mother." Grandma was sitting beside me, watching everything. The man in the suit was watching her. "Mrs. Harmon," he said, not Vernon's lawyer then, but someone from the bank. "We need to confirm that you understand the request being made. If you're unable to communicate consent, we cannot process." "She can't consent," I said. "She hasn't spoken since." "I understand what he's asking." Everyone went still. Grandma's voice was rusty, unused, but clear. "I understand exactly what my son is asking." She turned to look at Vernon, and there was nothing vague in her expression now. "The answer is no." Vernon's face went white. You can't." "I can talk, Vernon. I've been able to talk for months." She turned to the bank manager. "I'm competent. I've been evaluated by my own physicians. My attorney has documentation. And I'm telling you directly, my son is not authorized on any of my accounts. He never has been, he never will be." The room had that particular silence of people, recalculating everything they thought they knew. Vernon found his voice. She's been manipulated, coached. Macy has been. Macy has been taking care of me for over a year while you haven't visited once." Grandma's voice was getting stronger. "She didn't know I could speak. I didn't tell her. I wanted to see who she really was when there was nothing to gain from being kind." She looked at me. She was kind anyway. The bank manager was looking between us. "I'd like to see this documentation, the medical evaluations." "Call Leonard Roth." Grandma recited a phone number from memory. "He's been my attorney for 30 years. He has everything." Vernon grabbed the edge of the table. "Mother, you don't understand what you're doing. Bradley needs that money. He's going to prison without it. The family." "Bradley made his choices. You made yours." Grandma's voice didn't waver. "I've already made mine." She reached into her purse, slowly, her hands still not what they used to be, and pulled out a folded document. She handed it to the bank manager. "This is a certified copy of the trust transfer I executed 2 months ago. The original is with my attorney. Everything I have, the accounts your father hid from you, the investments you never knew about, has been transferred to my granddaughter." She looked at me. Macy. I couldn't speak. $2 million. Your father hid it from you and Richard because he knew exactly what you'd do with it. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. Turns out he was right. Vernon was on his feet. That's not you can't. I'll challenge this. Mental incapacity, undue influence. I was evaluated by 3 independent physicians before I signed anything. 2 of them are on the hospital's ethics board. Grandma's voice was iron. I had capacity, I had counsel, and I made my choice. She turned to the bank manager. Are we done here? Patricia was still reading the document. This appears to be in order. Mr. Harmon, I'm afraid without Mrs. Harmon's consent, we can't process your request. This is fraud. Mr. Harmon, the other suit finally spoke. I'd suggest you consult with your own attorney before making accusations you can't support. Vernon looked around the room like he was searching for an ally. He found none. His eyes landed on me last. You planned this, he said. You took her in so you could steal. I took her in because you dumped her on my doorstep and drove away. I stood up. We're leaving. Marcus helped Grandma to her feet. She moved slowly, but she was walking on her own. In the elevator, she leaned against the wall. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, she said quietly. Why didn't you? I needed to know. She met my eyes. I needed to know if you were like them. The elevator doors opened. We walked out into the afternoon sun. We got home around 3. Grandma was exhausted, more talking in 1 hour than she'd done in over a year, and I helped her to bed. She was asleep within minutes. Marcus was in the kitchen, making tea out of habit. $2 million, he said without turning around. Yeah. You okay? I don't know. I sat at the small table. I didn't do any of this for money. I know. He brought 2 cups to the table. She knows too, that's why she did it. The money every month, the $800, that was her. I figured. He wrapped his hands around his cup. She was watching, making sure. From the other room, I heard Grandma shift in her sleep. What happens now? I said. They'll fight it. Vernon, your parents, they won't give up easy. No, they won't. Marcus reached across the table, took my hand. Then we deal with it together. The family meeting happened 2 weeks later. Vernon demanded it. My mother arranged it. We met at a restaurant downtown. Vernon, my mother, my father, Bradley. No, Cynthia, I'd heard the engagement was off, that she'd moved out when Bradley's legal troubles became public. They were already at the table when we arrived. Grandma walked in on her own. Mother, Vernon's voice was strained. You look well. I am well. Grandma's voice was steady. No thanks to you. My mother leaned forward. We just want to understand what happened. This transfer, it came as a shock to everyone. You didn't ask. Grandma folded her hands on the table. You were too busy fighting over the scraps to wonder if there was anything else. That's not fair. Isn't it? Grandma looked at Vernon. You told me the investment was safe, guaranteed returns. I sold my house because you said it was the smart thing to do, and then you lost everything. Vernon's face was red. The market. You gambled it, I found out later, from people who actually tell me the truth. The table went silent. And you, Grandma turned to my mother, you visited every week when you thought I had something to give. When the house was gone, you stopped coming. When I had the stroke, you waited 3 days to call your own daughter. We were trying to figure out. You were figuring out how to avoid responsibility. Grandma's voice was flat. All of you. Bradley hadn't said a word. He was staring at his hands. Bradley, Grandma said. He looked up. His face was gray. You came to her restaurant. You wrote her a letter. You tried to be the good one, the reasonable one. Grandma tilted her head. Did you think I wouldn't find out? I was trying to help. You were trying to use her, the same way you've used everyone. Grandma's voice was quiet now. You're just better at hiding it than Vernon. Bradley's jaw tightened. For a second, something ugly flickered across his face. Then it was gone. The money is hers, Grandma said. The transfer is final. You can waste your time fighting it, or you can accept it and move on. Vernon started to speak, but Grandma held up her hand. I'm done. I've been done for years. I just didn't have anywhere else to go. She looked at me. Now I do. I helped her stand. Marcus was already there with her coat. My mother's voice followed us toward the door. Macy, wait. I turned. She looked older than I remembered, tired. I know we haven't. Things got complicated. Family is complicated. Family isn't complicated, Mom. You just made choices. I looked at her for a long moment, and so did I. We walked out. Bradley's trial started 4 months later. The charges were securities fraud, multiple counts. He'd been running a Ponzi scheme with his investment firm, using new investors' money to pay old investors, skimming off the top for himself. When it collapsed, dozens of people lost their savings. I testified once about Vernon's visit, about the pressure to get Grandma to sign papers. The prosecutor was interested in establishing a pattern, a family that viewed other people's money as theirs to take. Bradley's lawyer tried to paint me as biased, as someone who'd manipulated a vulnerable old woman for personal gain. The 3 independent medical evaluations made that difficult. Vernon was named as a co-conspirator. He took a deal, testified against Bradley in exchange for reduced charges. Bradley got 4 years, federal prison. I didn't visit, neither did my parents. 6 months after the trial, I signed the lease on a 2-bedroom apartment across town. Real bedrooms, not a mattress on the floor. A kitchen with actual counter space. A window seat where Grandma could watch the street below. Marcus helped us move. He'd been doing that a lot, helping, showing up without being asked. This one goes in the bedroom. He was holding a box labeled photos. Her bedroom, the one with the window seat. He carried it down the hall. I heard him talking to Grandma, heard her laugh. I stood in the living room, looking at the boxes stacked everywhere, the afternoon light coming through windows that didn't smell like cigarettes. The money was still there, most of it. I'd paid off my debts, put some aside for Grandma's care. But $2 million was more than I knew what to do with. You'll figure it out, Grandma had said when I told her that. You always do. Marcus came back down the hall. She wants tea, 2 sugars. I know. He grinned, just checking. I went into the kitchen and put the kettle on. Through the window, I could see the street below, people walking by, a kid on a bicycle wobbling along the sidewalk. From the bedroom, I heard Grandma say something, and Marcus's low laugh in response. The kettle started to whistle. I made 3 cups.
The brother, Bradley, he leaves a $20 tip on the coffee he never even ordered. I mean, he must be a very nice guy. So that's it for today. If you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.